Hey everyone, welcome to this tutorial on how to use Better Uploader, a plugin for Bubble. So I already have a few tutorials on Better Uploader currently with YouTube. The issue is that Better Uploader has changed so much that I need to make some new videos, and I'm also going to make a new forum post because the old forum post, after a certain while, you're not allowed to edit the original post. So not all, but a lot of the documentation from the beginning part of that post, from when I first released it, is very out of date. So here's this quick tutorial on how to use Better Uploader. So what's the point of Better Uploader? The Better Uploader at first and still is primarily for people who are trying to make their workflows more efficient, save space in the database, and also to be able to use files before sending them to the server. And I'll explain how that works later. So let's do a quick demo before I get into the editor. So as you can probably tell, Better Uploader lets you upload multiple files at once, and even folder uploading. And I'll show you how that works. So for this demo, the limit is 50 megabytes and there is a maximum of 3 files. I'm going to increase that, and I think I've already increased that to 50 just for this demo, but while I'm not doing this demo, I'm going to limit it to 3 because I don't want my database getting too filled. Okay. So when you click on the Better Uploader, you can upload files this way, okay? If I just click one file, okay, here you get a bunch of exposed states when you upload a file like this. And I shouldn't call it upload. What I really mean is when you stage a file, when you put a file on the page, because this hasn't been uploaded to the server yet at this point. You're simply, we're simply looking at a preview of the file using the raw data exposed state, which I'll show to you guys in a few minutes. So right now we're previewing the file that is on the computer. We haven't given it to the server yet, and we're able to access the name. And here's the raw progress, which basically means the progress it's taken to get on the page. This is normally 100% useless unless you're uploading a really big file. But at least you can tell with this that it's on the page. And so you can see that the multi-upload progress and the upload progress for a single file, they're at 0% because we haven't clicked upload yet. So that's the point really of Better Uploader, is that you can really separate putting a file on the page and then uploading it after. The default Bubble Uploader, unfortunately, when you upload a file, it uploads right away, no questions asked. And that can be a big problem because sometimes a user clicks on the wrong file and they upload it without having checked it, without having double checked it, and they upload a file and then they're like, oh, I want to replace that file. And so your solution is having a icon somewhere on the page that says with an X, or it says replace file. That works, but it's a really inefficient workflow. The reason why it's inefficient is because you have to actually upload the file, and then you have to find the file in the database using probably a do a search for or a parent group's thing. And in doing that, you're using processing on the page, and then you have to go and delete it. And so this solves that problem because this really, by letting users preview the file, right? Here's a picture of a person. By letting users preview file, you're avoiding that having to go and delete things from the database, which is super useful. And you can even preview multiple files at once. So you can see that if someone uploads like 10 files, being able to preview those 10 files before sending them out to the database can be extremely handy, so that you don't have to like go and delete them again. Okay, so here's this file. You can actually change the name. You can rename them upon upload. So I'm going to call this one test face, and if I click upload, there, it got uploaded. It's showing up here now, and the file name is testface.png. So we're successfully able to rename the file. So now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to upload a folder. This is a folder full of pictures and SVGs and one CSV. If I put this on the page, you have to actually hover the uploader. There you go. Took a couple of seconds to get up there. So here's all the file names. It's really long, right? What I like to do is I like to give them a new name. So I say test ABC. And so this will be applied to all of the file names. But you'll see what it does. It does something similar to Windows. So let's upload that. You can see one file get uploaded, and then all the other files. These are really small files, so they go to 0 to 100 right away. That first file that had the long upload progress is a big PDF, 8 megabyte PDF, I believe. So here it goes. Here you have the multi-upload progress, and here you have the single file upload progress. I'll pause this. Okay, it's about done, about 15 seconds later. So here you have the uploaded files. Here PDF shows up. I believe this was a CSV, so there's no preview available. And here are a bunch of GIFs and pictures and SVGs. So we were able to upload all of that all at once, which is pretty cool. And now if we look back on the name, Test ABC, what it'll do is it'll act similar to Windows, where it'll call it the first one test abc.pdf, and then the second one it'll call test abc1.csv, test abc2.gif, test abc3, test abc4, all the way to 28, because there are 29 files. So that's super useful in my opinion. What I like to do is when I upload a file, I attach the unique ID of the user who's uploading the file. I do a dash, and then I do a current date time. So I put the user and a timestamp. So that makes searching for files in the database super easy, because you just run a simple regex operation, and you say, hey, if this unique ID is in the file name, then it belongs to this user, which of course is correct. So, alright, you can reset that. And I wanted to show you guys one more thing. Another really cool thing about being able to preview files is that you can do work on them because of an exposed state called the raw data. I'm going to show you what an exposed state raw data is. It's what lets us preview the file, and it's what also lets us do work on the file that's being previewed. So here we have the preview, which is a simple HTML element. I have some code in here. It has nothing to do with about using the raw data, but really here you can see as a source I do better uploaders, and then there's a bunch of exposed states here, and I click raw data. Here you can access file name, uploaded data, multi-uploading progress. This is obvious what this is. Uploaded data is after you upload the files, if you want to save them to a thing in the database, you have to use this exposed state. You have to do like create new thing, and then you have to do add better uploaders, uploaded data to it. And here's raw progress. A file or folder is hovered, a file is valid. So if you have a size cap on the better uploader, so if you have a max file size of 50 megabytes and someone uploads something of 55 megabytes, that exposed state will flip to no and say, hey, there's something wrong with that. Or if file uploads enabled is no, the same thing will happen. Or if max amount of files is a certain number, let's say 3, and you try adding like 6 files, then it's gonna flip that exposed state to no. So you'll know whether a file or folder is valid. So you'll know when to accept a certain file or folder. Okay, so the raw data, what it does is it lets us contain it lets us contain a preview of a data. Could be a picture, could be anything inside of an image. The raw data exposed state is actually a base64 encoded data URL. So I'll show you guys an example not in a group of code. So here I have a repeating group. Okay. Here's the uploaded file. So this is the uploaded data. And here's the raw files, which has the data sources better uploaders raw data. And better uploaders raw data evaluates to a list of texts. Okay, so it's kind of like a list of URLs, but they're raw URLs. Basically, they're what's called a data URI or data URL. And what it is a representation of the file that's currently saved on that user's computer. So if you look at the current cells image inside of this repeating group, the dynamic image is simply current cells image, because the type of content is image and the data source is better uploaders raw data. So what actually happens is that Bubble takes the data source and puts it directly in the source tag of the HTML images. And what that creates is the ability to display the raw data on the browser, and the browser knows what to do with a data URI inside of a source tag. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an internet based URL. So it could actually be directly saved on the computer and it knows what to do. Okay, so back to the raw data. What you can do with it besides previewing is actually doing work on the raw data. So what do I mean by that? I mean that you can upload a picture such as this one, and then you can apply sepia to it, for example, and you can get a very distorted sepia picture of this raw data. So this is just some really stupid code that I have in an HTML element to kind of show you guys an example of what you can do with a raw data exposed state. So if I add another picture like this Visa one, I can apply sepia to it, right? This one's less distorted. And here, raw file, you can see I'm also previewing it here in that repeating group. So what the point of this is to show you that, like, if you want to do something a bit more complicated, like compressing a file. So on Bubble, a lot of people have been requesting the ability to compress a file. So I believe that would be a completely other plugin. So that's not a feature that I'm going to add to this. But what the raw data exposed state lets you do is take that raw file from the computer and run it through another plugin, perhaps of your own or that someone else created. Because they're just files, they can have anything happen to them, and then you can go and upload them yourselves through another mechanism. But really, the raw data is there to help developers as well. Help developers create their plugins without having to basically create what I created, which is a whole uploader to get all of this information. Eventually, there's going to be a way to take that raw data that you did some work on and then bring it back to Better Uploader to upload it. Currently, that's not supported, which is unfortunate, but eventually we'll have that. Okay, and so the separation in between uploading the file or staging the file to the browser here, the separation of doing this and then clicking upload is done using a server-side action, actually an element action, and I'll show you guys what that means. On the upload workflow, you click Start Edit Workflow, and what you do is you use the Send File to Cloud action. And here, if you go in Element Actions, you'll find Better Uploader, Send File to Cloud. And that's how you use that. And here you can put a new name for upload. This is basically how you rename files. For the reset button that I've been using since before, you simply reset the group where the uploader is in. So you don't actually reset the uploader itself, you reset the group that the uploader is in. So here's the group. I believe this is in some group. Okay, group content here. Group content gets reset, and Better Uploader detects that that reset action has occurred, and it'll reset all of its exposed states. You can see that here. Okay, group content gets reset. Also, you do error management. So I have a simple workflow, where is it? Do when condition is true workflow. I have it set up here. Do when Better Uploaders a file is valid is no. I show an alert. And so if I reset that, so right now it's set to 3 files, so if I give it a big folder, it should give us an error. So here's the test folder I have. So pay attention at the bottom right of the screen. File size is too large. The maximum allowed size is 50 megabytes. I should also write here the maximum allowed size is 50 megabytes and the maximum amount of files is 3. But anyways, it's just to show you that you can have things happen when the uploader is not valid. And you can see that it gets staged, but it doesn't accept the files. What it does is it doesn't let you go and upload stuff from here. So if I click upload, the uploader is empty. Please select or drag or drop some files before uploading. So there's some good error management here that you can play with. And that's about it. Just to recap, remember to pay attention to the exposed states. So if I click here, if I click Better Uploaders, and then file name, uploaded data, multi-uploading progress, raw data, raw progress, etc. Pay attention to those exposed states. These are really where all the cool features are. And don't forget to fill out the fields. So you have the placeholder, suggested file types, limit file types. So suggested file types, I forgot to talk about this one, is when you want to limit file types. So for instance, if I do, I forget if you have to put the dots. Okay, so let's do .png. And let's refresh the page. So this will let you limit the file types that are allowed to be uploaded, okay? But the problem that you'll see right away is that it still suggests, well, there's PNGs here, but it'll still suggest a bunch of random stuff, right? So this PDF is not a file type that is expected, and so you get an error, right? The file is not valid. So I'm going to reset that. We'll put a PNG, and it works. Remember, you have to do .png for that to work. But the problem is that it's not very user-friendly for someone to have to click on their folder, their directory here, and that for them to see all files, right? It's not user-friendly at all, because then they actually have to look. If you want them to only upload PNGs, you want to show them that. So here, you do the same thing, .png, and you have some documentation here too. So .png, so if we refresh the page, and we click on choose a file, then what you'll see is that it'll only suggest PNG files to be uploaded. It's not perfect, but I'll show you. So they click, only PNG files will show up, right? So that's much more user-friendly. Now, yes, if they wanted to, they could click here and click all files, okay? But we don't have any support, we don't have any control over this fact. This is handled by the operating system. So PNG is really the suggested file type. They can manually click all files, but if they click manually and they try to upload a zip, for instance, it'll give an error, right? So it's almost foolproof. So yeah, there you go. You can apply CPU to it. So yes, this is what limit file types does. This is what really limits it on the system, and the suggested file types is on their system, what file should we suggest to them? One note here that's important: on iPhone, suggested file types are a little wonky. They do work, but they're special keywords that you have to use. But that information is readily available online. I'm sure you can find it. But like, for instance, videos won't show up unless you put .mp4 or I think it's MP4, or it might actually literally just be video, like this, without the dot. One of those will actually make iPhone pick up videos. But anyways, you guys can play around with that. And yeah, so I think this was a good tutorial on how to do this. You'll be able to click this link here to be able to be brought to the forums. And you can ask any question you like on the forums. Yeah, so let me know if you guys have any questions, and have a good day.